Hello Derby Racers. One of the most important things you can do to increase the speed of your car is to polish the axles until they shine like a mirror. Remember that a very big part of building a winning car is to eliminate the friction anywhere and everywhere. One of the major sources of friction comes from the wheels and the axles rubbing against each other. So you need your axles to be as smooth and mirror-like as possible. To get the very best polish possible, I recommend using the Deluxe Axle Polishing Kit found at DerbyChamp.com. However, before I show you the correct way to polish your axles, let's talk a little bit about the things you should not do when polishing axles. Many websites, books, and hobby stores recommend using a kit like this one to polish your axles. The kit contains some 600 grit sandpaper, axles, and a little package of pumice. Let me say right off the top that this is not the best way to polish your axles. You'll never get your axles to shine like a mirror by using 600 grit sandpaper and pumice to polish your axles. Pumice really is like sanding with 1800 grit sandpaper, and to get your axles looking like a mirror, you've got to go a lot higher than 1800 grit. So I recommend putting this stuff in the trash can where it belongs and using a much better method. As I said before, I recommend using the Deluxe Axle Polishing Kit found at DerbyChamp.com. This kit contains 9 grades of wet-dry sandpaper, starting with 400 grit, then moving to 600, 1000, 1500, 2000, 2500, 3000, 2 micron, and finishing up with 1 micron polishing film. Polish your axles with this kit and they'll shine like mirrors when you're finished. It's actually possible to take this process one step farther by using the professional axle polishing kit found at DerbyChamp.com, but we'll talk about that in another video. So let's take a look at the list of things you're going to need before you start. First, you'll need to either have a handheld drill like this one or a drill press. In this video, I'll be using a drill press. However, you can do all the same steps using a handheld drill like this one. But you'll need to have someone there who can help you hold the drill if you're using a handheld drill. Or if you have an electric drill and a padded vise, you could put the drill in a vise, but you'll need to be careful not to tighten it too much. You'll also need to have a magnifying glass, the Deluxe Axle Polishing Kit, a pair of scissors, a small needle file with fine teeth, a small bowl of water, and the 4 axles that came in your Pinewood Derby kit. When you have all of these items assembled, you're ready to build a polished set of axles that will help your car rocket down the track. When the axles are first taken from the box, they have burrs and crimp marks on them, and you can see those right here. These little burrs that are underneath the head and these crimp marks right here along the surface. And these burrs and crimp marks have got to be removed for top performance. They create a lot of friction and will be a huge drag on your car if we fail to remove them. After we remove the burrs and the crimp marks, then we'll polish the entire surface of the axle to a mirror-like finish. Okay, we're ready to begin polishing and preparing our axles at this point. As I said before, I'm going to be using a drill press during this demonstration. The things I'm going to need to begin with here are going to be one of my kit axles. I'm going to be using the magnifying glass, and I'm going to be using the needle file. We'll begin by inserting the axle into the drill press. Okay, we're ready to insert the axle into the drill press. So I'm just going to insert the axle gently, leaving about a ½ an inch or so of it sticking out of the drill press like this. The next step is just going to be to tighten the axle gently. You don't need to over tighten it, but just make sure it's not going to be coming out. You want to leave, like I say, about a ½ an inch sticking out. This is going to be the area where the wheel actually rides on the axle itself. Next, I'm going to turn on the drill press and use the small needle file to gently file away those burrs. Next, I'm going to use my magnifying glass to look and make sure that I've got those burrs off. Take a good close look. If there's anything left from the burrs at all, make sure you can go back and do a little bit more filing. Now in this case, I appear to have got the burrs off, and so I'm ready to move on to the next step. The next step is going to involve using the wet dry sandpaper, and I'm going to be cutting that and using that in just a minute. Okay, with the drill turned off, I'm ready to cut a piece of the 400 grit sandpaper in the kit. So I'm just going to take the 400 grit, cut a small 1/4 inch strip off of that sandpaper, and dip it in the water. Let it soak for just a minute to make sure that it's nice and wet, and then you're ready to begin polishing. Okay, I'm ready. Now, I'm going to turn on the drill and use this wet dry sandpaper that's been dipped in water to sand and polish this axle. When using the 400 grit sandpaper, we want to polish the smallest amount of time possible because we don't want to reduce the axle shaft diameter any more than necessary. So polish for about 15 seconds and then turn off the drill. And using your magnifying glass, you can be sure that you've removed all of the large scratches and the crimp marks. If needed, you can turn the drill back on and polish for a few more seconds. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to use the magnifying glass to check my work and see how I'm doing. It looks like I've got all of the large scratches off of this axle, but if I didn't, as I said before, I could polish for a few more seconds. It's important not to over polish. One of the biggest mistakes people make when polishing their axles is they try to do too good of a job with the 400 and the 600 grit sandpaper, and they polish their axles so much that they reduce the diameter, and they wind up with a lot of shimmy and shake because the axle is too thin. Okay, next I'm going to repeat this process with the 600 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to cut a little 1/4 inch strip off from the 600 grit, dip it in water as before, and repeat the entire process. Here we go. As before with the 600 grit, I'm just going to turn on the drill press, polish, check with the magnifying glass, and then move through the other grades of sandpaper as before. And once again, I'm going to check with my magnifying glass to see how I'm doing, if I'm getting those scratches off. It looks like I'm doing a good job. So what I'm going to do at this point is I would repeat this process with all of the other grades of sandpaper all the way up through the 1 micron sandpaper.